Hey everybody, Adam Tracy, and I want to talk about the Seychelles Payment Service Provider license, right? Which is one of the lower cost licenses, but it comes with its own challenges. So you have two tiers, right? You have just a basic remittance tier with a minimum capital of approximately 40,000 depending on the day. And then you have the full EMI tier, which includes everything from debit card issuance to custody to merchant processing, all of that for about 70,000 in terms of minimum capital. Like the fees for licensing, roughly 1,500, annual license fee around 3,000. It's all on my site. You can see it. But the process itself is unlike, not unlike anything else, business plan, all that kind of nonsense. And you're going to look at somewhere between, once submitted, 2 to 4 to 2 to 5 months, right? Depending on really the complexity of what you're trying to do. Like a full EMI versus a basic remittance, it's going to be different, obviously. So there's more to look at. There's more reasons for them to send you a letter and ask you questions. So, but let's look off like the full EMI scope and what's the real value of it. And the problem with the Seychelles, because it was blacklisted coming off of it, doesn't have the same, credibility rating, if you will, of like a Mauritius, which is actually less expensive. So you're going to have harder times connecting with tier one banks, at least off the bat. And like I always say, where you start in terms of licensing isn't where you always finish, and so on and so forth. But that's something to look at right off the bat. Two, to forge relationships with MasterCard, Visa, it's a little more difficult than what you're going to find in most offshore jurisdictions. And that's probably because of Seychelles' history, right? So those are the two big impediments. Whereas, the relative ease of regulation, your effective tax rate is about 1.5%. You do have a local office presence. You have, the employee, but it's very minimal, right, as it were. And, the question becomes, well, why do I do it? Well, it's not ideal for access into like the US, EU. It's better for like payment aggregations to developing nations. If you want to be a payment aggregator to, really all of Africa and, other developing nations, it's ideal. It's absolutely ideal. If you're like a fintech and you want to create that sort of foothold and brand equity on something, it's a great sort of sandbox, even though it's not a sandbox, it's a license for it. And just from like a basic like remittance standpoint and peer to peer, you can issue, and focus on the unbanked population and populace all around the world, and it'll actually do wonders. Now, you're not going to do business within the United States, but most of the unbanked lie in Africa and Asia, and they rely on EMIs as a conduit or a substitute for traditional fiat banking. So that's really the main tools, and it's not to say that you can't use it, as a pure EMI and offer high risk processing, for which it's also very good, but it's also something to consider when you're getting into it. And obviously, for the investment, you weigh the pros and cons with it, and that's what you come up with. So that is how to come across get the Seychelles Payment Service Provider License 2026. If you have any questions, definitely you know where to find me, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.